The invitation sat on my desk, cream-colored cardstock with gold embossing, the same stationery my father had used to write my dissownment letter 15 years ago. The irony wasn't lost on me. Please join us for dinner at the Anderson family estate at 8. Your presence is urgently requested. My assistant Thomas watched as I turned the invitation over in my hands. Are you going to go? I leaned back in my chair, looking out at the Manhattan skyline from my corner office. What do you think, Thomas? After 15 years of silence, they suddenly want a family dinner. My name is Sarah Anderson, though I haven't used that last name since I was 22. Back then, I was just the rebellious older daughter who dared to question my father's business practices. Now I'm Sarah Wu, CEO of Avalon Industries, one of the fastest-growing technology companies in the world. And I just signed the papers to buy out Anderson Technologies, my family's failing company. The merger documents are ready, Thomas said, placing a thick folder on my desk. Everything's set for next week's board meeting. I nodded, still staring at the invitation. Have you seen the latest numbers from Anderson Tech? Thomas pulled up a tablet, scrolling through reports. Stock's down 60% from last year. Your sister's latest product launch was a disaster. Rumors that they won't make payroll next month. Rachel, my perfect younger sister, who'd always done everything right in our father's eyes. The one he'd chosen to run the company, claiming she had the right temperament for leadership. The same sister who hadn't spoken a word in my defense when he'd thrown me out. Book me a flight to Boston, I said finally. Let's see what they want. The Anderson estate hadn't changed in 15 years. Same manicured lawns, same imposing stone facade, same sense of old money and older expectations. As my car pulled up the circular driveway, I saw other vehicles already parked, Rachel's Range Rover, my father's Bentley. Thomas had insisted on having a car wait for me. Just in case, he'd said. Smart man. The butler, not the same one from my childhood, opened the door before I could knock. Miss Anderson, he greeted me formally. Miss Wu, I corrected him. His eyes widened slightly, but he nodded. Of course, my apologies, Miss Wu. The family is waiting in the study. The study where all important Anderson family decisions were made, where my father had told me I was no longer welcome in his house or his company. I straightened my Prada jacket and followed the butler down the familiar hallway. Family photos lined the walls. Rachel's graduation, her wedding, her taking over as CEO. My face was conspicuously absent, all traces of my existence carefully removed. The study door was open. Inside, my father sat behind his massive desk, looking older than I remembered, but still radiating authority. Rachel perched on the leather sofa, her designer outfit not quite hiding her nervous fidgeting. And in a corner, my mother sat silently, just as she had the day I left. Sarah, my father said, standing. Thank you for coming. I remained in the doorway, not quite entering their space. Well, when the great William Anderson requests your presence, how can you refuse? Rachel flinched at my tone. Father's jaw tightened, but he pressed on. Please sit. We have much to discuss. I chose an armchair near the door, crossing my legs and waiting. The silence stretched uncomfortably. Finally, my father spoke. We're aware of your success in recent years. I raised an eyebrow. My success? You mean building a billion-dollar company from scratch while you were grooming Rachel to run Anderson Tech into the ground? Sarah, please, my mother spoke for the first time. We're trying to have a civil conversation. Civil? I laughed. Like the civil way you all sat there while father threw me out, or the civil way you've pretended I don't exist for 15 years. Rachel stood up suddenly. We made mistakes, okay? Is that what you want to hear? We were wrong. I studied my sister, really looked at her for the first time. The perfect blonde hair was styled as immaculately as ever, but there were shadows under her eyes, tension in her shoulders. Running a failing company didn't look good on her. Why am I here? I asked, turning back to my father. He sighed heavily, looking every bit his 65 years. Anderson Technologies is in trouble. We need your help. And there it was, not an apology, not an acknowledgement of the pain they'd caused, just another business transaction. Your help? I kept my voice neutral. What kind of help? We've seen what you've done with Avalon Industries, he said. The innovation, the growth. We need that kind of thinking at Anderson Tech. I thought about the merger documents waiting in my briefcase, about the months of careful planning that had led to this moment. And what exactly are you offering? A partnership, Rachel jumped in. Co-CEO position, equal say in the company's direction. I almost laughed. They had no idea how close they were to having no say at all. Let me get this straight, I said, standing. For 15 years, I was the family disappointment, the one who didn't understand business, the one who wasn't worthy of the Anderson name. But now that you're failing, suddenly I'm good enough. That's not fair, Rachel protested. Things are different now. Different? I turned to her. Different how? Because you failed at the job you were handed on a silver platter. Because you couldn't handle the responsibility you were so sure you deserved. Enough, my father's voice cracked like a whip. We're offering you a chance to come home, Sarah, to be part of the family again. I reached for my briefcase, pulling out the merger documents. That's a generous offer, Dad, but I have a counter-proposal. I placed the papers on his desk, watching as he picked them up. His face went pale as he read. What is this? The future of Anderson Technologies, I said calmly. Avalon Industries has been buying shares through various subsidiaries for months. As of next week's board meeting, we'll own controlling interest in your company. Rachel grabbed the papers from our father's hands, her eyes scanning frantically. This is impossible. You can't? Can't what? I asked. Can't outmaneuver the mighty Andersons, can't build something bigger and better than you, can't take everything you thought was yours. My father stood up, his face red with anger. You planned this, all of it. No, Dad, you planned this. The moment you decided Rachel was more worthy of your trust, your love, your legacy, you set this in motion. I just learned from your example. We'll fight this, he threatened. We have lawyers. Yes, you do, I agreed. The same lawyers who helped me structure this deal. Turns out loyalty can be bought. Another lesson I learned from you. The silence in the study was deafening. My mother had gone completely still, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Rachel looked like she might be sick, and my father, he just kept staring at the merger documents like they might somehow change if he glared at them long enough. The board meeting is next Tuesday, I said, standing up. I suggest you take the weekend to come to terms with this. Please. My mother finally spoke, her voice trembling. Sarah, we're your family. I turned to her, feeling the old pain surface. Family? Where was this family when Dad threw me out? When Rachel took everything that should have been shared between us? When I was struggling to build something of my own? You never needed our help, Rachel said quietly. Look at what you've built. I laughed, the sound sharp and bitter. You think Avalon Industries happened by magic? I worked 18-hour days for years. I lived in a tiny apartment, ate ramen noodles, and pitched to every investor who would listen. And you know what kept me going? Knowing that someday I'd be strong enough to make you all see what you threw away. My father finally found his voice. So this is revenge. No, Dad, this is business. Isn't that what you always taught us? Never let emotions cloud your judgment. I picked up my briefcase. Anderson Technologies is failing. Avalon Industries can save it. The fact that I get to do it, that's just what did you use to call it? A fortunate business opportunity. As I turned to leave, Rachel caught my arm. Wait, what's going to happen to us? To our jobs? I looked at my sister, really looked at her. The golden child who'd had everything handed to her, who'd never had to fight for anything in her life. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. That depends, I said. Are you willing to earn your position for once? Before anyone could respond, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen. Thomas, right on schedule. I have to take this, I said, stepping into the hallway. Thomas, how did the board calls go? Better than expected, he reported. Most of them are already on board with the merger. They've seen the numbers. They know Anderson Tech can't survive without outside intervention. Good. And the press release? Ready to go after Tuesday's meeting. The business papers are already speculating about a possible buyout. Your father's mismanagement and Rachel's failed product launches have made it an easy sale. I ended the call and turned to find my mother standing in the doorway. You thought of everything, haven't you? She asked softly. I had to, I replied. You all taught me that nothing less than perfection was acceptable. She flinched. We were wrong, Sarah. About so many things. Yes, you were. Is there any way to fix this? I studied her face, the same face that had watched silently as my father destroyed my life 15 years ago. Fix what, Mom? The company, the family. Some things can't be fixed, I said. They can only be rebuilt. And rebuilding requires change. Back in the study, my father had moved to the window, staring out at the gardens where he'd once taught Rachel and me about the importance of the Anderson legacy. "What are your terms?" he asked without turning around. "For the company? They're in the merger documents. For the family?" I paused. "That's more complicated." Rachel looked up from where she'd been reading the merger papers. "You're not firing everyone, are you? There are people who depend on those jobs." "Unlike you, I actually care about the employees," I said. "Anyone who's qualified and willing to adapt will have a place in the new organization. But there will be changes. Big ones." "And us?" she asked quietly. "That depends on you. Are you willing to start at the bottom? Learn the business properly? Prove you deserve your position?" She nodded slowly. I think I need to." "Good, because that's your only option if you want to stay with the company." "And me?" My father turned from the window. "You'll be offered a position on the board. Non-executive, no direct management role. Your years of experience could be valuable, but you won't be running things anymore." He opened his mouth to argue, then closed it again. For the first time in my life, I saw William Anderson accept defeat. "The board meeting is at 10 a.m. on Tuesday," I said, gathering my things. "I suggest you all be prepared." As I reached the door, my mother called out, Will you stay for dinner?" I turned back, looking at my family, really looking at them. My father, proud but defeated. Rachel, scared but finally understanding. My mother, hopeful but uncertain. "No," I said softly, "not tonight. We have too much history for casual family dinners. But maybe someday." The next few days passed in a blur of meetings and preparations. Thomas kept me updated on the board members' responses, most enthusiastically supporting the merger, seeing it as their best chance to salvage their investments. On Monday evening, as I sat in my hotel room reviewing the final presentations, my phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. "Can we meet? Just us?" I considered ignoring it, but something made me respond. "Lobby bar. 30 minutes." She was already there when I arrived, nursing what looked like a very expensive glass of wine. "Thank you for coming," she said as I sat down. "What do you want, Rachel?" She took a deep breath. "I wanted to say I'm sorry, not just for now, but for then. For not standing up for you when Dad threw you out. For taking everything without questioning it. For being exactly who they wanted me to be instead of who I should have been." I signaled the bartender for a drink. "And you're just realizing this now?" "No," she admitted. "I've known for years that I was in over my head, that I wasn't cut out for this. But I was too proud, too scared to admit it." "So what changed?" "You did. Seeing what you've built, how strong you've become, it made me realize what real leadership looks like." I studied my sister, looking for any sign of manipulation, but all I saw was exhaustion and genuine regret. "You know things can't go back to how they were," I said finally. "I know. I don't want them to. I want to learn, really learn from the ground up." "Will you teach me?" The next morning, I stood before the Anderson Technologies Board of Directors, my father and sister seated among them. As I presented Avalon Industries' vision for the merged companies, I couldn't help but appreciate the symmetry of the moment minus 15 years ago in this same room. My father had told me I wasn't worthy of the family business. Now I was showing him exactly what he'd thrown away. The vote was unanimous. By noon, Anderson Technologies was officially part of Avalon Industries. As the board members filed out, my father approached me. "You've won," he said simply. "This isn't about winning, Dad. It's about fixing what's broken, in the company, and maybe eventually in the family." He nodded slowly. "I underestimated you. I was wrong." "Yes, you were. The question is, what are you going to do about it now?" He straightened his shoulders, and for a moment, I saw the man who had once taught me about business before pride and prejudice had poisoned everything. "I'm going to watch my daughter run the company I should have trusted her with 15 years ago," he said. "If she'll let me." It wasn't an apology, not really, but it was a start. 6 months later, I sat in what had once been my father's office, now my secondary workspace when I was in Boston. Rachel was presenting her analysis of a potential new product line, work she'd done from the ground up, starting as a junior analyst. "The market research suggests a strong demand," she concluded, "but we need to address these production challenges." I watched my sister confidently handle questions from the team. showing a grasp of details she'd never bothered with before. She was learning, growing, becoming the businesswoman she could have been years ago if she hadn't been handed everything too easily. After the meeting, she lingered behind. That went well, right? It did, I agreed. You've come a long way in 6 months. Thanks to you, she said quietly, for giving me a chance I probably didn't deserve. Everyone deserves a chance to prove themselves, Rachel. Even spoiled little sisters who take 15 years to grow up. She laughed, a real laugh, not the artificial one she perfected for society parties. Mom asked me to remind you about Sunday dinner. I've been to exactly 2 family dinners in the past 6 months. They were still awkward, still heavy with unspoken words and lingering hurt. But they were also something else. A beginning. Maybe, I said. I have a lot of work to do. You always have a lot of work to do, Rachel pointed out. But maybe that's not all there is to life. Maybe sometimes family dinner is just family dinner. I looked at my sister, really looked at her. The entitled princess was gone, replaced by someone more real, more substantial. Maybe, I agreed. Later that evening, as I worked late in the office, I found myself looking at an old photo I kept in my desk. Me and Rachel as children, before expectations and favoritism had torn us apart. We were smiling, arms around each other, unaware of the years of pain and separation ahead. My phone buzzed. A text from Thomas. Board reports show Key 3 profits up 40% since merger. Anderson Tech Division exceeding all projections. I smiled, thinking about how far we'd all come. My father was learning to be a board member instead of a dictator. Rachel was earning her place instead of expecting it. Even my mother was finding her voice, slowly but surely. And me? I was learning that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's showing people exactly what they missed out on, and then maybe giving them a chance to make it right. I picked up my phone and texted Rachel. Tell Mama